Aegislash is a technical stance character with extremely strong pressure and high damage, and the potential to snowball games once he gets going. His regular blade form pokes reach far and confirm into high damage combos, while his shield form trades the ability to block for constant armor and powerful zoning options. He can change stances off of multiple moves and benefits from shifting stances often, with healing or positive buffs. He can also put mist on the field that explodes if he switches stances, adding additional pressure. Lastly, he brings over Guard Impact from Soul Calibur, but unlike in that game, he can start a combo if he gets a successful parry. Aegislash has a weak shield, low health, and cannot afford to make too many bad decisions, but if he plays his cards right, it's very possible for the opponent never to get their turn. Blastoise has high health and the ability to buff himself up further, making him an immense tank of a Pokémon, perhaps in some respects the tankiest in the roster. He likes to maintain a mid-range game, where all his strongest options are primed to land. Within this range, he has several specialized tools to threaten the opponent with, like high chip damage, long-range grabs, and an armored gap closer. Sadly, Blastoise suffers from very low mobility and the worst frame data in the game, so he has quite the bad disadvantage state once it's no longer his turn. Blaziken is a high damage, high speed glass cannon. Unique to him is a mechanic where holding down the A button instead of tapping it allows him to use powered up versions of his specials. Every time he uses the powered up versions, however, he loses some of his life, which converts into grey recoverable life. This has to be managed carefully. If done properly, Blaziken possesses strong shield pressure and very high damage conversions off of very simple combos. If you like playing high risk and high reward rushdown, Blaziken is the character for you. Be careful though, most of his gameplay revolves around attacking from the air, so he's extremely susceptible to being anti-aired. Braixen's the character who has answers for every situation in the game. She has the unique ability to cancel her attacks into support calls, letting her keep a lot of her pressure safe. And, with her ability to build support gauge even from empty hits, she can call supports very often. She can deal with zoning with her light screen barrier, and has a fast air dash that lets her reposition on the fly. Braixen is also able to enhance her next special with Sunny Day, and can gain an attack buff by performing it while already enhanced. Her normals involving her stick gives her good reach, and her combo damage is no slouch, especially when enhanced. Braixen takes time to learn given the complexity of her kit, but players who take the time to stick with her will find a very rewarding character with a high skill cap. Chandelure is the best at what she does, and what she does is zone. Her specials all pierce counters, making the usual way of dealing with zoning ineffective against her. Up close, she has a command counter that pushes the opponent back, making it hard to punish, and a large anti-air that gains high immunity on frame 1. She has a half-screen command grab that gets more powerful the more debuffs are on the opponent, which isn't hard to set up, as several of her attacks will inflict them on hit. If backed into a corner, she can use the powerful Red Armor Overheat, though this will leave her with 2 debuffs. Chandelure's moves all have slow startup, and most of them can be jumped or ducked if predicted, which means careless players will find themselves getting punished very badly as she has low health. Players picking her up for the first time would do well to keep that in mind. Charizard is a grappler with big buttons and big damage. He's got high risk, high reward options against an opponent on the defense with his simple but devastating specials. With his ability to glide, he also has a surprising amount of aerial mobility and can jump cancel several moves into said glide. His long range pokes and anti-zoning game gives him an extremely large threat zone. Charizard is extremely slow on the ground, and when he's too close, he lacks safe options, making some matchups quite polarizing. His optimal damage routes are quite technical in execution, but if you can get past that barrier, you'll find a character that's extremely intimidating to fight. Croagunk is perhaps the most unorthodox character in the game. He can throw random objects at the opponent, with the better ones showing up more often as he gets lower in health. He has odd moves that involve applying buffs or debuffs, as well as moves that change in properties depending on the state of said buffs and debuffs on both himself and the opponent. He can deal immense chip damage with his main projectile, though it would never actually kill the opponent. He can also float and swim in the air, leading to some of the hardest yet wackiest combos you'll see in this game. If you're the type of player who likes playing the weirdos, then this frog might be what you want. Darkrai is a tricky, non-traditional zoner. He can create rifts that fire after a delay, and place phantoms that can convert into different types of projectiles with different properties. If he lands Dark Void, he enters Bad Dreams Rising mode, which changes up his moveset into one of the strongest in the game, with long-lasting hitboxes and new powerful moves. This lasts until the phase shifts back to field, but it's very possible to take rounds off of a single BDR activation. However, if he loses field phase and is stuck in duo without BDR, he will be at a disadvantage and tends to struggle extremely hard to get his momentum back. Decidueye is an all-rounder with a little more complexity than the other all-rounders in this game. He has a flight stance that can transition into a number of options, lunging specials that are relatively safe on block, and all-round good mobility on the ground and in the air. Of note is his ability to temporarily lock out opponent supports with grabs and his Spirit Shackle projectiles. He can apply strong corner pressure through resets and has some scary wall combo damage. His non-wall combo damage is nothing to write home about, and he struggles a bit with opening up and pressuring shorter characters. Still, with little in the way of glaring weaknesses, Decidueye is a versatile character that can be played well in all matchups. Empoleon is a straightforward character that's all about pressuring the opponent. His Aqua Jet lets him approach at blinding speed, dealing more hits and damage at longer distances. At full screen range, he has a good zoning game that locks down the opponent and does decent chip damage, as well as setting up for a safe Aqua Jet approach. When Empoleon opens up the enemy, especially at the wall, he can get some truly monstrous damage in a single duel phase. Empoleon lacks strong anti-airs and defensive options, so he depends on having the momentum in order to win. His high health and high damage means he can afford to make a few mistakes. Garchomp is all about getting in the opponent's face and staying there. He takes the attack, grab, counter triangle and runs with it, with his specials gaining unique properties when successfully beating the type of attack it's strong against. He can dig underground, avoiding all attacks while submerged, and he has a running stance with some unique attacks and cancels. His combos involving his run cancels and his charge moves have steeper execution curves, but lead to absolutely disgusting damage in the corner, a situation that can come about often with his wall carry. He does lack zoning options and reliable ways to deal with counterattacks, but if you're confident in your reads, you can run a truck over your opponents with this character. Gardevoir's game is all about space control, possessing long-range projectiles and a side of lockdown traps. Her Calm Mind charges her next stored power special and can be cancelled into a command counter or a teleport. She can place future sight traps that explode after a delay, giving her a strong Ogizeme game. If she manages to land one of her close-range combo starters, opponents will find that Gardevoir has surprisingly high damage combos for a zoner. Gardevoir has a blind spot in the mid-range game and lackluster defensive options, so she has to work hard to get someone off her if she is currently lacking a support. Gengar is an unorthodox character with options to confuse and frustrate the opponent. He has invincibility frames on several moves where he completely vanishes at awkward times, letting him bait and punish opponents who don't know where these timings are. He can steal synergy meter from the opponent and add it to his own, eventually letting him access his burst form, Mega Gengar. Essentially an entirely different character, with huge safe hitboxes and a powerful burst attack. His set play can be powerful, but if forced onto the defensive and unable to build meter, Gengar struggles to get damage in close rounds. However, players who enjoy frustrating characters and powerful installs will like the premier Ghost Pokemon. The poster boy of the game, Lucario, is a straightforward and easy to understand character that has strong neutral tools and simple but high damaging combos. He's got a projectile, an armored dragon punch, and an advancing move with lingering hitboxes, so those used to the Shoto archetype should feel at home. His burst mode greatly increases his damage output, forcing opponents to respect it, and with an average size burst meter, he can enter this mode once per round if the cards line up. While he's good at pretty much everything he doesn't quite excel in any specific area. Machamp is a slow, lumbering truck that takes away a third of your health every time he gets close. He has extremely good close quarters frame data that can lead to big damage specials or big damage command grabs. In addition, he can power up his next special with Bulk Up, increasing his damage to ludicrous levels. His submission command grab never causes phase shift, and he has combo enders that don't add towards the phase shift points that determine when a phase shift occurs. This lets him stay in dual phase longer, allowing him to continue his pressure. He isn't the most mobile of characters, and he can struggle to get in, but once he's in, he will show everyone why he's the premier grappler of the game. Mewtwo is a solid all-rounder character with some fun mobility tools. He's got great reach with a lot of his normals, and he has a fast air dash that he can attack out of. His primary projectile, Psycho Cut, has a follow-up lunge, which can be cancelled before the attack lands for mix-ups. He has a command counter that can cancel into a grab or an attack. He also has a panic button in the form of the red armored move Side Strike, although it's unsafe on block. Mewtwo has the largest synergy meter capacity in the game, which means he's not going to get burst often, especially as most of his specials drain his synergy meter as a side effect. He also lacks mids, which forces him to engage in high-low mix-ups when pressuring. Still, he's an honest character for players who enjoy an oppressive neutral. This yellow mouse picked up a few tricks from the Mishima family, and he's an all-rounder similar to poster boy Lucario. He's got some of the best frame data in the game, letting you pressure with ease. He's also pretty much guaranteed a burst mode every round, as his meter size is small and he builds it quickly. Pikachu also possesses a simple but effective zoning game, and has a few long-range normals that helps him play footsies. However, Pikachu's combo damage isn't the best, and he lacks strong anti-air tools. If you prefer a more momentum-based flavor of all-rounder, Heihachu might be up your alley. Pikachu Libre has some of the most brutal mix-ups in the game, and being stuck in the corner against her is one of the scariest situations you can find yourself in. She possesses a command dodge that can be followed up by a number of options, an air dodge that can let her wall jump, a command counter that blasts her forward, and perhaps most infamously, her all-purpose Electro Web command grab, which inflicts a speed down debuff. If she manages to get a phase shift with any of her specials, she can also enter an enhanced state that grants her a variety of benefits, including plus frames, stuns, or increased damage. Pikachu Libre does have stubby normals and a lack of zoning options, but she doesn't really need those to excel. Sceptile is a high mobility character that can convert into damage from almost any stray hit. He can put down delayed traps that force the opponent to block, lest they get open up for a combo. His Leaf Blade command counter reaches far, and his Giga Drain command grab threatens at long range. With his fast dash and good pokes, Sceptile keeps the pressure on and capitalizes off each little mistake, forcing the opponent onto the defensive. However, most characters have ways to respond to his traps, and outside of his command counter, he lacks strong defensive options, particularly against grabs. Scizor is an interesting mix of zoning and high damage confirms, possessing unique neutral options that are difficult to execute but extremely rewarding. He can hover dash, deleting light projectiles in the process, and he can move while holding down his universal counter. Scizor also has a command counter, Sword Stance, which can be either used for zoning or stocked to extend combos. His movement options, while hard to execute properly, makes him a strong and slippery target that can open you up from mid-screen into some of the flashiest combos in the game. Scizor lacks any real ways to pressure someone up close, as most of his moves are either unsafe on block or can be avoided in some way or other. Shadow Mewtwo is the boss character of Pokken, and he has the moveset to prove it. He has strong, long-reaching normals and powerful specials. He has a special, Miracle Wide, which can cause various wacky effects to happen, like projectiles reversing, turning into mirrors, or energy pillars reappearing where they were initially placed. If that's not enough, Shadow Mewtwo has a small capacity burst meter, granting him access to burst regularly. Shadow Mewtwo's powerful moveset comes at the expense of the lowest health in the game, and a good portion of his specials dealing recoil damage on top of that, making him the most glass cannon of the cast. Playing Shadow Mewtwo requires knowing when to make use of your powerful tools, and when to back off and manage your health with his healing special or through the phase shift and burst mechanics. Suicune is a zoner that excels at mid-range and frustrating approaching opponents. Several of his moves can be cancelled, giving him some mix-up options. Up close, he has reliable buttons, but they don't lend themselves well to continuing pressure. He also loves to control the skies with his powerful anti-air game. Suicune is a slow character, and his projectiles tend to get beaten out by other characters. His game plan is also a bit linear, and he lacks a good piercing option. For a simple but versatile character, with a leaning towards zoning, Suicune is a good character to pick up, but might struggle a bit in some matchups at a high level. Weavile's defining trait is his speed, letting him play in versatile ways. He has attacks that reduce the opponent's synergy gauge, which coupled with his own small size gauge, means he can control the pace of burst use in the match. He possesses fast jabs and icicle zoning from awkward angles, letting him harass the opponent with ease. While his walk speed makes him very slippery, Weavile doesn't have the best pokes, so he has to play footsies using only walking or his lunges. His damage output is also on the lower side. Still, if you value versatility and controlling the pace of the match, Weavile is your character. Thanks for watching this character overview. If you'd like to learn more about Pokken or find some people to play with, feel free to join the community Discord at the link in the description.